The Dogs That Didn't Bark, Part 1. An Ipnosis report on the Psychological Therapies Reference Group meeting, 18th of September 2007. In reporting on this reference group meeting, I found it very difficult to stay with the actual event, and the several narratives here and in other recordings are the result of this somewhat divided attention. Had I been entranced by the fascinating, if low-key tone of the meeting? Was it the several instances of dogs that didn't bark, including questions Ipnosis forgot to raise, that have led me off in unexpected directions? Was it some sense that what really mattered was going on elsewhere that morning? Or was it the gradual emergence of a clearer image of the landscape of UK psychopractice as the fog slowly lifted during the meeting? Let's stay with the dogs. Non-barking dog 1. While the meeting was held in the British Psychological Society city offices, no one from the society showed up. The absence of the British Psychological Society was perhaps explained by a pre-meeting item of news. The Section 60 order, which will capture the psychologists and take them into custody, has been delayed for a year, thus enabling, as Ipnosis supposes, further plea bargaining by the British Psychological Society. The meeting began with a review of where we were with state regulation of the psychological therapies, a very helpful mix of news and views. The 9 bodies who had a year earlier concocted the Psychological Professions Council were now being spoken of as 5, still Ipnosis supposed including the British Psychological Society. The 5 had had a meeting with Philip Hunt, Nick Clark and Ros Mead of the Department of Health to discuss the Psychological Professions Council and their concerns about the Health Professions Council. They had used the meeting to try to find out if the Department of Health understood and appreciated their concerns about the way regulation was moving. Apparently not. They came away with confirmation of the Health Professions Council as the regulator, plus an offer by the Department of Health to broker conversations between the 5 and the Health Professions Council. The extent to which the 5 were sticking together does appear to have impressed the Department of Health. However, later in the summer, the department had delivered a critique of the Psychological Professions Council proposal, which was described pretty much in passing in the meeting as pedantic and damning. No to the first, and yes to the second, but read it for yourself. The Department of Health rebuttal of the Psychological Professions Council proposal is a definitive statement of the government's mind, not least because it runs to 18 pages of text. If we needed confirmation, the regulator name chiselled into the tablet that has come down from the Department of Health mountain is HPC. That such a long and informative document was quietly passed by in this meeting, it hadn't been distributed, counts as non-barking dog 2. However, hope springs eternal in the hearts and minds of convinced regulationists, and comfort was drawn from 2 observations. 1, the restructuring of the Cabinet with Alan Johnson as Minister of Health and Dawn Primarola as Minister responsible for aspirant professions. New faces were held to equal new opportunities for persuasion and U-turns. Except, as someone pointed out, 2 of the new ministers came from the Treasury. Primarola was previously Paymaster General, which might be taken to suggest that the Layard CBT tendency could continue to find favour. Secondly, due to being entirely self-financing, the Health Professions Council appeared to be in considerable financial and resource difficulty. This was seen by some at the meeting as a motivation that will drive minimum demands of registrants by the Health Professions Council, so as to suck in business. A highly plausible coda to this claim suggested that, Having captured and digested the psychological therapies, the Health Professions Council would, through its control of training curricula, reverse engineer the key elements of them, and thus create a new generation of compliant, employer-led, technocratic psychological therapies, promoting the government's view that happiness equals health equals being at work. Among other confluence that was noted, the author of What Works for Who, Tony Roth, has apparently written the CBT competencies for Skills for Health, and is now apparently charged with developing the competencies for the rest of the psychological therapies. A couple of asides here. 1. As Ipnosis wearily repeats, Skills for Health is a sector of skills for business. And 2. At a recent seminar on the topic of regulation at an annual counselling conference, none of the participants had even heard of Skills for Health. A brief account of a stakeholder conference held on June the 5th, 2007, that discussed the implementation of state regulation, revealed that there were no less than 32 aspirant professions. IPN was not invited. Be sure to play part 2 of The Dogs That Didn't Bark.